Greetings and salutations. We're back here again for another episode. The last one I did, I was talking about one of my all-time, maybe my all-time favorite filmmaker, and that's Stanley Kubrick. But I have many filmmakers that I enjoy their work. And today we're going to focus on one of I think one of the foundational great filmmakers of the late 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, he died young, so he wasn't able to, finish out the 90s and into the 2000s because I think he would have kept making even better films. He literally went out on a crescendo. Probably his best movie was his single last movie right before he died, and that is my boy Krzysztof Kieślowski. He directed this kind of trilogy of films, Blue, White, and Red, based on the French flag. When I was really starting to get into movies, I kept hearing this guy's name over and over and over. Krzysztof Kieślowski, and I believe it was Roger Ebert put this in his top 2 or 3 films of the 90s, and that's when I remember reading his list, about like 99, 2000, and I was like, okay, I got to see this film, these films, should I say, to see what all the hype's about. And it's one of the most pleasant things in my life is that it delivered. This is not always the case with me in movies, especially that people hype. These days, it's a lot of superhero movies, and they don't do anything for me personally. But this one really did, especially Red. And I kind of want to focus on. I have some of his other films I'm going to talk about as well, and some people would argue that they're probably superior. But this is where I got to know this director, and I immediately could tell that he had a total command of the craft of directing, setting up scenes, the actors, just pulling great performances out of these people that, some of them have gone on to make, have their American debuts or be in more American films, or, should I say continental films over there and American here, just really became international superstars. But some of them started off with Krzysztof here, and this one is really important, in my opinion, in particular in his filmography, is because he was a Polish director that had to, this was before, should I say, this isn't before the fall of communism, but he was working when the Iron Curtain was down over Poland, and so a lot of what he's directing, the symbology and stuff, he had to say stuff without saying stuff. And I think that type of direction made him a much better director. Because subtlety is he's probably one of the best subtle filmmakers I've ever known. So, Blue, White, and Red is based on the French flag. And each film, kind of has a loose connection. I don't want to give anything away, but there's a strong connection too at the very end of it, at the very end of Red. But essentially, Blue, White, and Red is based on the French flag, and blue being, if I remember right, I'm pretty sure, liberty is blue. White is equality. White is equality, and red is fraternity. I remember Red because I'm going to be honest with you. Of all 3 of these films, Red was the one that, as you can tell from the earlier videos if you've seen them, and a great ending for me is I just sit up and I'm doing the applause. I love a great ending more than anything, especially a great last shot. This is one of my all-time favorite last shots ever. So I kind of just wanted to go into these films and some of the other ones I have to highlight, one of the best filmmakers I think of all time. So we'll start off with Blue here. I guess I can set this here so it kind of looks pretty. Hopefully that works. So, Blue stars Juliette Binoche, an absolutely fantastic actress. And essentially this film is about her overcoming the death of her family. And it's not to give, honestly, anything away about this movie because it happens unbelievably early in it. And it's about, the movie's about, liberty, about something that could be tearing you down and tying you so much to a moment in your past that you can't live in the present or even think about your future. And this woman delves into such deep depression that to watch her pull herself out of it through, actualizing her talent and stuff. Because not to give it away, she is someone who helps her husband, who was a composer, helps him with his work. And part of this thing is her, finishing the last of that work that they were working on together, that she can push through it on her own. And it's a beautifully shot film. Of the three, sometimes I think it may be my least favorite, because I don't know, I guess in a way I don't want to be that down throughout a whole movie without a great crescendo at the end. And this one is just more, like I was saying earlier, he's a real subtle filmmaker, and this one is very subdued and dealing with heavy, heavy issues, because death is going to touch every last one of us. From our family, from our friends, from just an acquaintance you met, and then, the next day they died, and you're like, oh my God, could I have been the last person to talk to them? Which is, that can weigh on your mind. And, I think it's a very well done film. I'm reading here it won the best actress at the Venice Film Festival, which is, it's of all the film festivals I've ever wanted to go to, I want to go to the Venice Film Festival if I ever get to go, and someday I believe I really will. Even more than Cannes or Toronto Film Festival, Venice just seems like I've looked at a lot of the past winners and stuff of it, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. Those films hold up. Those films are still amazing. But yeah, it's a great way to start the trilogy. It kind of sets up his direction style and kind of the themes that they're going to be loosely focusing on that will actually tie all together when you see all three of them. So yeah, first is Blue, and I would say honestly, just because I say it's not my favorite of this trilogy doesn't mean it's not an absolute masterwork. It is so good, and I think a lot of people may even find that to be their favorite of them. So now I'm gonna follow up with my next favorite, and that was White. It's more of the comedy, and it'll tie back into. I'll talk to it in a second. Some of the the films that he had shot before. He carries over some of the characters, or should I say, some of the actors into this, and he does just a great job. It's basically a man who is divorced by his wife for not being able to be a man, if you will, consummate the relationship. And it's about his scheming to get back to the top of everything, business and personal affairs, everything, to where he can prove to her that he is a quality person. They are equal. She's not just so above him. And it stars the lovely Julie Delpy, who is one of my favorite actresses of the 90s. And, she's honestly one of my favorite actresses of all time. She ended up becoming a really good director. And I've just really enjoyed her work. I have always enjoyed her work. And then this is one of the films where she plays kind of a jerk in a way, but she's a foil to him. So I can't really say she's a jerk. It's just that he is so inept and weak that she's strong, and she's like, I don't know how I picked you of all people to pick. And it's a comedy, like I say. It's a dark comedy, which it would be, but it's really good. A lot of people consider it the weakest of the three, but like I say, I think it's my second favorite. Maybe it's because I just love Julie so much, and I kind of like the ironic twist at the end. Once again, the endings for me are so important, but it's a very good film, and it's it's just got some good quality laughs in it that made me chuckle, and made me think as well. But yeah, that's White. And the last is, which most people consider the best of them, is Red, Fraternity. We got Irene Jacob, and she ended up becoming over to America, becoming a pretty decently big actress herself. But yeah, this film is essentially, she is a model who finds out that one of her, I think it's her father, she's going to visit her father's house. The neighbor is a judge who literally surveillances people. He listens to their phone calls. He gets to know their secrets. And it's like, why that first off, that's kind of creepy. You know, like who is he to want to know people's inner lives and stuff? Does he have no life of his own? And you know, at first she really resents him when she finds out this information. You know, like I'm gonna turn you in, and then she doesn't. She tries to understand this man who is, like, say he was a judge of people, like literally a judge, legal, and now he sits in contempt of everyone. And a lot of this is her like opening him up to this world that he has written off a lot. You know, he's an older man and he's just given up. And you know, the tendency would be, ooh, younger girl, older man. Let's see if they get. And thankfully, Krzysztof Kieślowski does not go for the easy, low-hanging fruit. Because I mean, I just can't stand that trope. Honestly, really can't. It's fraternity. It's about, loving your brother, loving your sister when you're not related. You know, that we're all on this planet trying to sort this out, and a lot of it is just beyond our realm of comprehension. And there's another running story through this movie where you see a young lawyer that's kind of experiencing a lot of heartache and stuff that is, it's mirroring what the judge had talked about, he had gone through. And so it's like, the idea, I think, that just because time separates us, the young from the old, doesn't mean that we're not going to go through similar things, similar patterns, and that we can hold each other up when we're about to fall down. Again, it all comes together at the end of this movie to tie all the other two together. And when I tell you, it is one of the most enjoyable moments for me to, when I've only ever got a few friends to watch all three of these, but when they called me and they're like, oh my god, that freaking ending of Red was so freaking good, I'm like, I know, when I saw it too, I was just mwah, like, what a freaking filmmaker, because it's just not something I expected. And so this was the first that I got exposed to Krzysztof Kieślowski, and it wasn't gonna be the last. I knew he was amazing. I'm gonna say right now, I haven't seen all of his Polish films. I've only seen what I'm about to talk about next. This is basically what a lot of people consider the best film of the 80s. It was a mini series he did for Polish TV called the Dekalog. It's basically 10 films that are about each focusing on one commandment, the 10 Commandments. And I guess it would be like a 10-hour movie if you were to sit through it all, or close to. And you see characters weaving. It's basically like one big apartment complex, and it's like these different characters filtered throughout it. And not every film is set in that apartment, but a lot of it's like around there. And this is one of the, if a film can make me ever tear up or cry, I never forget it. It's like, and I'm not saying I'm like stone-hearted or something, but I've seen so many films, I kind of know when you're going down a certain route, what you're doing. I've got you kind of figured out. And with these, I couldn't figure out sometimes where the heck he was going, and I loved that. I thought that was wonderful. A lot of people will say, one of the highlights of this is the first film, the commandment, there's no other God but God. And yeah, I teared up at the end of it. It was so good that I was like, I cannot wait to watch the rest of these 9 films. And I believe it's the last film, or maybe second to last, is Thou Shalt Not Steal. And or maybe is it? Basically, I have to double check which commandment it was, but it's basically 2 brothers who inherit a coin collection from their father, and how they're going to go about splitting it, how being equal to one another, that they both get the blessing from the father, what he's left, and then it's like the deviousness around them, the world around them, scheming and planning. I think I saw that this is another one of the films that Ebert had as one of the greatest films of all time, and he's right. I'm hesitant to call it like one film because it's 10 different chapters. But maybe it is technically one film. I'd be hard to sit through every single one of them because I'm not gonna lie. There's like maybe two episodes that are just okay, but there's 7, 8 that are. So I'd say probably 6 that are really, really good, and like 2 that are absolutely they're masterpieces. Um, Thou Shall Not Kill is brutal. It's a masterpiece. And what's really cool with this Criterion is they included the longer version that he turned in for. It's called a short film about killing. He turned that into I think Cannes Film Festival or something. So he expanded one of the episodes, and it's just looking at the death penalty. It really made me think about the death penalty. Honestly, after it, I can't say it changed my opinion on what I had initially thought, but it really made me question it. And is that really the opinion I hold? So it's the Decalogue is amazing, to be perfectly honest. It's one of the crowning achievements of human filmmaking. And yeah, a lot of people don't know a Polish film director was out there doing, and this I think I know he did this before the fall of communism. So a lot of the stuff he's fitting in here, those censors were checking out, looking for is there any sort of dissent from the message, from the Soviet Union message, and he was able to hide some really good symbolism and subtlety in this stuff that people didn't pick up on. And yeah, it's a crowning achievement. I think if he never made this, he would still have been secure as one of the best filmmakers there. And I should have said too earlier. Oops. He died right after Red, so about 94, 95. And I believe he was only in his late 50s. So we all got gypped out of like at least probably 20 years more of great films. So, but again though, when you're going from this to that, he's just astounding. And I wanted to highlight the last of the works that I have of his right now is the movie that actually came in between. So the Decalogue happened, and then he did this movie called The Double Life of Veronique, and this has Irene Jacob in it. Before she would end up starring in Red a few years later. And I got it on Criterion because I saw it on streaming service, and I really liked it. But I was also like, I didn't understand it. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I had to do some research on it afterwards, and I was like, what is going on with this movie? Because it was like so deep in symbology and mood that like it wasn't like Red, where it all kind of comes together in some way, and it wasn't all kind of on your nose sometimes with like some of the Decalogue, some of the commandments, like don't do this, listen to your mother and father, or you understand why he would write the way he would write those episodes. And I should say too, he wrote with a writing partner. I want to give him credit. I want to give him credit because I know that before he died, he was working with this writing partner, and they had started working on another trilogy that was going to be called Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory. And I've seen Heaven. Heaven was done with Tom Tykwer and as director, and Kate Blanchett and Giovanni I can never say that guy's name. Giovanni Ribisi. And he's good. He's really good. I can't believe can't say his name right. I'm always horrible with names, but it was a decent film. I haven't seen Hell. I know it's like a Polish comedy. I haven't seen it though. It's still one of the movies I'd really like to see. But the other writer is Krzysztof Kieślowski, I guess. I hope I definitely brutally said that name, but I want you to know that Krzysztof Kieślowski didn't write these himself. He wrote with a partner, and I believe I remember reading years ago that he was like a lawyer that he had worked with, getting some of his productions going. They had to work with these lawyers, and he just realized these two hit it off, and they're like, we should work together, and thank God they did, because they wrote the they wrote they wrote the Decalogue based on the Ten Commandments. They wrote this trilogy. Then they also worked on the Double Life of Veronique, and it's just such a freaking weird movie. Essentially, it's a woman in Poland and a woman in France who look exactly alike, and they feel each other from across, all this vast distance, and it's like how their lives are going to be intertwined. And it's like they see, and I should say, like, they see each other, just one passing glimpse, and it's like, oh, that person looks exactly like me, and if you know anything about doppelgangers, if you see your doppelganger, there's a good chance you're about to die, or someone's about to die, maybe the other one. But it's like something that's not supposed to happen ever. And yeah, this movie is still, I rate it below the others, but I also know that it's very good. I know there's some more going on this than I have yet to ascertain and put into words. It's unbelievably beautifully shot. Like all of his stuff he's a wonderful director. He just really is. He knows how to. The composition of what he's doing is just amazing, and the pacing with the actors, and they're speaking Polish, and I'm like, yeah, following it, even though it's sometimes so dense I can't even understand. I mean, we have the subtitles going, but I'm like, how can they fit all these words into one thing when they're saying something so small and compact? And that takes good direction. And I believe that this man was Krzysztof Kieślowski is one of the best directors of all time that I know of, and it's just a shame that he didn't get to, because right, I believe, yeah, this is Miramax, so that was, unfortunately, it's been the early '90s. That'd been the Weinstein brothers running that, so I feel like they had big plans for him to become, like, they'd probably bring him over to America next, because it's like he's progressively getting more and more Western, as far as, or should I say, he's not more Western, but like they're bringing in more filmmakers from the West to work with him, and it's working perfectly. He's got command of the set, and I think that's probably was the plan, is to bring him over to America and feed him some scripts that they would want to have made, and have a great director do it, because he was a wonderful director. So yeah, I wanted to just use this video to kind of highlight him, and if you haven't seen his films, I'm sure a lot of them are on YouTube. Oh God, I just remembered that movie, that Polish movie. It's Blind Chance. That's the one that I'm trying to find and watch. Blind Chance. I really want to see that film. That was early, sorry, I almost wrapped it up, but it just hit me. It's Blind Chance. I want to see that movie, and then maybe I can know where to put that in his filmography overall. But yeah, if I had to rate it all, I would say Red's my single favorite thing that I've seen him do. Most impactful is obviously the Decalogue. It's like, a lot of our, especially Western, Christian Western societies is kind of based on that Ten Commandments. It kind of rules a lot of our life, even if we don't believe in necessarily the truth of it all, as far as, like, the historical truth that came to Moses and down to us. It's still, those Ten Commandments really hold a lot of power. They hold a lot of sway over everything. Shoot, they're trying to put them in schools in Texas now, I was reading, and yeah, I think that they hold true today as much as they did thousands of years ago, that, and as far as shaping human behavior and maybe trying to make us better. Doesn't always work, but it's a worthy goal to pursue. So yeah, Krzysztof Kieślowski, if you haven't seen it, please go out and try to find it. He's worthy of your time. Thanks.